This is The Link, connecting new immigrants to Canada and Canada to the world. Hello, I'm Marc Montgomery. Welcome to the show. Starting us off today on this day before Christmas, the Christmas Eve, Sherry Tompolsky is a psychiatrist. She's also an artist who's painted a series of portraits of refugees now living in Ottawa.
As a psychiatrist, one is trying to help them articulate their experience verbally. And as an artist, I'm trying to mirror back to them their experience of themselves in a visual way.
And we'll hear about a unique exhibit of Sherry Tompolsky that she's preparing in Ottawa in just a moment. Well, Canada is home to hundreds of thousands of refugees who've fled persecution in their home countries, but Canadians usually don't get the chance to hear their stories. An Ottawa artist is preparing a unique exhibition where visitors will be able to see the portraits she has painted of several refugees now living in Ottawa while listening to them tell their stories. Robert Jarreau has met the artist and he joins me now from our Ottawa studios. Hello, Robert.
Hello, Mark.
The artist, also interesting, she's a psychologist, Sherry Tompolsky.
Yeah, she's been practicing psychiatry for 20 years. And about 10 years ago, Mark, she started painting as a hobby, but soon discovered she liked doing portraits and was quite good at it. And last year, she was commissioned to do a series of portraits of Afghan refugees for World Refugee Day. And she says it was, for her, an eye-opening experience.
As a psychiatrist, one is trying to, in a sense, mirror back to the person and help them articulate their experience verbally, put their experience into words and make sense of it that way. And as an artist, it's slightly different. It's a visual mirroring. So I'm trying to mirror back to them their experience of themselves in a visual way. I had a very touching moment with one of the Afghan refugees because I said to him, we don't have to use your name in the portrait if you would rather remain anonymous. It's going to be an expressionistic work. People probably won't recognize you. And he said, well, let's wait and see until the portrait is done. Once the portrait was done, he looked at it and he said, I've had my picture taken a number of times and I don't even think it looks like me. He said, but this painting feels like me. And he said, I want you to use my name. So I was very touched by that.
Mark, that exhibition last year was entitled Portraits of Refugees. It has toured Canada, the United States, and England. Now, Mrs. Tompolsky is working on a new exhibition, Voices of Refugees, which will also feature portraits of refugees, this time from Africa, Asia, and South America. But it will also have a twist. The artwork will show her impression of the ordeal these refugees have been through and the struggle they still live. But it will also feature the refugees themselves telling their stories, why they had to flee their country of origin, how they came to Canada, what life has been for them since, in their own words.
Well, I just want to clear something out. I think I mentioned that she was a psychologist. Mm-hmm. In fact, she's a psychiatrist, and that's an important distinction there. But how does this work? I mean, she's got the paintings, and we hear them. So how does that work?
Well, Sherry's husband, Graham, is a videographer. He used to shoot videos of her while she was painting. Then they both realized that during the sittings, when the refugees were coming to her studio to get their portraits done, they spontaneously started talking about their lives, so Graham turned his camera on them. The result is that each portrait is accompanied by a short video where the subject of the painting is telling his or her story. Here's an excerpt of the video where Hawa Kaba explained what happened to her and her husband before they were forced to flee Guinea 30 years ago.
They gave us some document to sign. And I read the document. It said that we were counter-revolutionary. It said that's the rule. You sign the confession, you can leave. So I cry and cry and cry. They said you sign it, you leave. So we signed the confession and they let us go.
Hamid Ayub is from Sudan. In his video, he describes what it's like to be a refugee.
Sometimes you feel you wish it is a dream or if it is a nightmare, like to wake up from it, but it's real, like you don't have no option. For you're running for your life from the human harshness, you're hoping for better.
So far, Mark, Sherry Tompalski has painted the portraits of 16 refugees, all now living in Ottawa, and she hopes to get the paintings and the videos ready for exhibition in a few months.
How would you describe her painting style?
Well, it's contemporary for sure. Lots of vibrant colors, sharp angles, vivid contrasts, illustrating the complexity of human emotions. She describes her style as psychological realism, an attempt to capture the inner experience of a person on canvas.
The portraits are all different. The style is similar in that they're collages, mixed media, and they tend to have a fragmented aspect to them. And I use a lot of sheet music, so the idea that they've been fragmented by the traumatic circumstances. The sheet music is from music that was collected in Ottawa over the past 20 years. Some of it's quite old. It's from Ottawa orchestras. And so in a sense, it represents the culture that they have to reassemble themselves in.
Mark, she also uses fragments of photographs, letters, and other documents. Her paintings are very large, and the faces dominate them, and the result is that they really command attention and provoke an emotional response.
Now, I can imagine for these refugees that this is a rather unique experience. What did they say about the experience of posing for their portraits?
Well, it's a form of therapy for them. Posing for a painting, Mark, is a very private, maybe even intimate moment. They get to talk freely about themselves, their past, their hopes, their fears, without fear of being judged. Victor Fuentes is from El Salvador, where, as a student, he was detained and tortured by government authorities.
The first time I was put into the torture chamber, I was blindfolded, I was handcuffed in the back, and there was a minute of silence, complete silence before they started to beat me up. And it was at that point when I could feel around me the breathing of these people. I want to say another word, but I won't use it. After so many years of being here, I am happy. I found some peace in my heart.
Sherry Tompalski says a story like this one really touched her personally. She says her training as a psychiatrist helps her deal with the pain her subjects express.
I've been a psychiatrist for over 20 years, so I've heard many stories of tragic circumstance, and it's just part of me now. Often, in fact, when we were doing the portraits of Afghan refugees, they were speaking in Farsi, and I was saying to my colleagues, it doesn't really even matter if they're speaking another language, because I can hear so much in just the tone and the volume. The depth of pain that these people, the massive change that they've had to endure, it's just enormous. The leaving their family, friends, culture, language, these are enormous changes that one has to go through. So much to process.
Sherry Tompalski's upcoming exhibition, Mark, couldn't be more timely, as the Canadian government is preparing to crack down on so-called false refugees, suspecting that economic migrants only pretend to be fleeing persecution to avoid the long waiting time to immigrate to Canada. Her paintings and the videos that accompany them might show Canadians that many of those refugee claimants actually need Canada's protection.
Well, Robert, thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
And that is a correspondent in the national capital, Ottawa, and that was Robert Jarreau. And if you'd like to see a little bit about that, you can find her website, Sherry Tompalski. It's www.sherry.ws, or you can simply do an internet search on her last name, Tompalski, Tompalsky, and that should come up on the website there. You're listening to The Link here on Radio Canada International. My name is Marc Montgomery. Well, it is, of course, Christmas. And here in Canada, it just wouldn't be Christmas without the tree. Just